Okay, so somebody requested a tutorial on Trance, and we're not going to overthink this or really. This isn't going to be an advanced tutorial, but this is basically what you're going to need for the building blocks of Trance. I'm sure that the purists are going to have an aneurysm when they see this, but this isn't for them. This is for the guy who requested it on the channel. So it looks like I did a lot already, but I really didn't. All I did was open up Ableton, and I made a few MIDI tracks. You can also do what I actually did, which is make a MIDI track and then eventually duplicate it down. So all I did was I took a MIDI track, I named it Plux, and what I did, which this is actually a repeat of what I did in the 30-day power production course, I made a MIDI clip, which all you need to do that is click and drag, highlight, and just click and drag, right click, insert MIDI clip, or Control Shift M. So just click, Control Shift M, Control Shift M, there we go. So once I had my MIDI clip made, all I did was draw in a C minor scale. Just a C minor scale, starting at C, worked my way up. Just go ahead and pause the video and copy this. And then all I did there was highlight it, and then Control click, which takes the notes and drag them all the way up to make a second octave of it, right here above it. So, right, oh, for crying out loud, right, C to C, and then C to C. Okay, you can find that tip in the 30-day power production course for further explanation on that, but that's what it is right there. From there, I took that same MIDI clip, duplicated it, and when you have your C minor scale and you fold it, there's no chance of hitting a wrong note on the keyboard. So you fold it, and then basically you draw in notes and you skip every other one. This will basically foolproof your music theory if you don't know any. So every other note, starting at the root, that, skip it, right? Every other, that, skip it, there, every other. That's your first chord of the C minor scale, second, third, fourth. All you're doing is drawing in notes and skipping every other one. So there's your first 4 chords of the C minor scale. I duplicated that and just took all the notes and raised them up. So this originally looked like this. All I did was saw that the last note that I ended on was F. So if you're wanting to make the 5th chord in the C minor scale, you start on the next note, which is G, right here. And then you skip every other one. So I just took this, raised it up to G, every other one, every other one. I didn't even need to draw it in because it's already written from the first MIDI clip. All I did was duplicate it and raise the notes up. So basically we've got a C minor scale for our Plux. We have our chords. We have our bass, which is basically just a repeat of the chords. You can just go like that basically if you want to be, you know, correct about it. And obviously I know, you know, a lot of you are beginners, so, you know, all I did was that. That's your root notes for the bass line, and then the sub will basically be the same thing, which actually I can take these since they're a repeat of the chords. Take these, Control, click, and drag down, and now I've got my sub as well. For the drums, all I did was drag in a drum bus under Instruments. Click on Instruments, you'll see a drum bus there. Drag and drop that right on this track here, which is our drum track. And on our drum track, because I don't want to assume that you guys have a ton of samples. If you don't have a ton of samples, it's no big deal. You can replace these later. The big thing right now is about learning how to get the patterns laid out. Then you go back, and once you get your next paycheck or whatever it is, that's when you buy a proper synthesizer or go and buy presets or get a subscription to Splice or whatever you want to do to replace samples and sounds. But for now, we're just looking for the pattern, so that way you have something. I went into samples, and if you have Ableton, the 909 samples come stock. I basically just did kick, clap, hi-hat. Can you do other stuff? You totally can, but that's something that we're going to cover in a minute here. So in making that pattern, kick on every fourth, right click, eighth note, clap on the 2 and the 4, and then open hi-hats are on every other if you're starting at the first note. So first note, skip it, hi-hat. Third note, skip it, hi-hat. Okay, on and on. And then for the closed hi-hat, what you can do is go into 16th notes. I'm just right clicking. That's just all that is. That's just a right click. And then the menu comes up here where you can change it to 16th or whatever you like. And then I just kind of decorate around something like that. So obviously that sounds more like a house beat right now. So let's lift this up to 138 because I'm not afraid. Now obviously right now none of that is mixed, so it sounds very kind of housey and kind of, you know, rough, if you will, which is a cool sound as well. I mean, you can do that, but probably what I'll do is take the closed hi-hats and really crank down on volume on those, and probably the clap I'll crank down a little, because really your kick should probably be the loudest, or one of the louder elements. Now keep in mind too, like, you're going to replace these samples. These are just placeholders. You go on Displace, you make an account. I think it's like $7 a month. You can go on there and type in trance samples and get something at least as good, if not way, way, way better. And then the same thing with what we're about to do up here with all this stuff for the melodic elements of the track. I'm just showing you how to make it quickly, and then you can use this as a template, and then you go back and replace these sounds with other things, and you know, that's kind of the name of the game. So with the chords, what I did here, and you can already see I started to do it, all I did was take what I have here and just control click and drag it over, just like this. Ready? Click on it, control click. Now you have a copy of it, you drag it anywhere you want. Okay? That's all I did. I took this, I made a copy, and I dragged it over 4 times. Music theory is something we can go into at another time, but basically, because we drew out the notes over here, I want to do a 1-4-5-1 pattern. So 1, I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to do the 1 chord. That's what I'm going to leave it with. So I'm going to delete all of those. The 4, click on it, I'm going to leave the 4th chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we're looking to leave. So click and drag, delete, boom. Click and drag on these and bump that over to the beginning of the bar. The 5, which actually, let me just for good measure, what we can do, we could move notes around, but I don't want to do that on you right now. Let's just go over to our second MIDI clip that has our 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th chord. Okay? Control and drag that over, control click, drag it over. This is our 5 chord, remember. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously our 5 chord is that first one, and it's already at the front of the bar, so we're good on that. So 1, 4, click and rename, 5, and then we go back to 1, which, by the way, the 1 and the 4, and also this one, same as, you know, the 1 is the same. So 1, 4, and 1, that's all from this first MIDI clip here. That's where those chords can be found. The 5, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 5 can be found on the second MIDI clip. So on the 1, same thing as I did on the first. Click, drag, and delete, boom, bam. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just drag this one over. Control click, drag it over, there you go. So now with that, what we can do is go into our instruments and Let's see, we can just do... I'm really not sure. I'd probably do piano and keys. Might be better to try to find piano. Let's see. And once again, these are just placeholders, so just spend a little bit of time. You don't need to spend a ton. Not really loving a lot of this, to be honest with you, but, you know, it's not something to go too crazy over, because once again, these are placeholders. I can't stress that enough. Maybe we can try that one. I don't know. It doesn't really matter if it sounds not good right now because we're just sketching. So that's fine. That actually sounds okay. What we'll do is, so click on one, go over to the other, shift click, and then Control L so that it loops now. Cool. And then actually that drum pattern, you can either click on the edge and drag it over, or if you want multiple clips, just click it out like that. And then actually what we'll do here is click, and we'll extend these notes just to see, and we might change this because I think it's 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, we might actually cut those just to a half bar. Right now these notes are going for a full bar, 1, 2, 3, 4. We might change those to a half bar, 1, 2, and then the chord changes. So right now what I mean by that is every chord is played and ringing out for a full bar. 9 to 10 is the 1, 10 to 11 is the 4, 11 to 12 is the 5, and then 12 to 13 is the 1 again. So a full bar may work for what you're doing, or you can come in here and say, I just want to do half bar. Select. You can also Control A to select. Bring that back to just 2, and then move everything over and rinse and repeat. 4, do that. Bring it back to 2. And just keep dragging over and doing that if you like. But for the sake of this tutorial and speed, just to give you an idea, because you're going to be pausing it and copying all of this, so your work is going to be much longer than mine. This is just to get you set up. Okay, with the bass now, what we're going to do is actually delete these because we fixed our bass line over here. So 1, 4, 1, and then the 5 is, remember, on our second MIDI clip. This is one of my favorite parts of trance music, is the bass line. 1, delete it, 1, 4. So the first 3, because that's our 4, move that over. The 5, and then the 1. It's basically a note version of what we did with the chords above. This is just notes instead of chords. Okay, now with the bass line, what we're going to do is right click, change this to 16th, and 1, 2, 3, and I'll show you a workaround for this in a minute, but for now just follow along, do this, because you'll start to see that the basic building blocks of trance are being built here, and you'll be able to change them, but before you worry about changing them, just get the idea from a foggy thing that you're watching on YouTube to an actual, like, you can start to see it forming. But until then, just follow along, and you'll see in a minute here what we're doing. 16th, that, click, drag, duplicate, just Control D, so click and drag to select, or Control A to select all, and then Control D. Whoa, I have no clue why that happened. That was weird. Oh, I see, because I selected all. Remember, our scale is back here. just like in the 30-day power production course. It won't sound, you won't hear it, it's back behind the MIDI clip and it's folded. So when I select it all, that's why that copied over. So just click and drag to select, and then Control click, click and drag, Control click, and bring it over like that. And then this 16th, then bring it over, and all I'm using is the arrow keys on my keyboard. That and that. Control, duplicate, click and drag to select, Control duplicate, there we go. So now we have basically a chord progression and a bass line. And I mean, what's it been? Let me check here. We've been going for 15 minutes. In 15 minutes we have the skeleton of a trance track, which is awesome. That's great. And I mean, it becomes a lot more awesome because once you do this kind of initial work, you really can replace the sounds and get something really nice very quickly. We might go for this one for now, even though, once again, these are just placeholders, but I think that... See, and what you're hearing there, that 16th note pattern, classic trance right there. Sounds wacko because of the sound we're using, but that's okay. I mean, with production, one of the biggest things I wish somebody would have told me is, like, it's not going to sound, it's okay for it to sound a little bit wacko at first. Let it sound that way and just be okay with that, because it's like clay, or it's like a drawing. You don't magically have a beautiful work of art. You have to work at it and chip away at it, and just going right off and grabbing a great sounding preset sort of just strokes the ego. It sounds good right away. I'd rather just have the pattern with a ridiculous sound and begin to realize, even as a beginner, that, like, you can replace the sound as long as the pattern is there. That's what really is important. There's a million presets out there that you can spend all day on. That one might be good. Okay, and the sub. So basically what we have here is well, what you could do too is copy these down. So click and then shift click and then control drag down. Whoops. There we go. And take this, select, click, delete. This is your sub baseline. Same thing here. Delete, delete, click, push it over, move it like that. Actually, I'm getting rusty on my trance. What we need to do is eighth notes. So that, duplicate, eighth note, duplicate, eighth note, duplicate, eighth note. Cool. And same thing over here. I was doing a full bar subline, but you don't typically do that in this style of trance. So that, what are we on, 16th notes? 8th note, boom, duplicate, boom, duplicate, boom, duplicate, boom. All I did was put 4 notes, 4 C notes on 8th note, like this, drag it up, kill it, 8th note, I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, I need to go back and do that again because I missed every other one in the other guys there, and that's okay, no big deal. So that, something is wrong here. Yeah, notes are misplaced. Okay, hang on. Go like this, that. That's quite odd. Why is that not? F, kill it, eighth notes. Eighth note. That's funny that a simple sub-bass line was the thing that gave me the most trouble. And that's what I did wrong. I looked at this scale incorrectly. It's G. So write in a G. Boom. Duplicate. Boom. 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 It's just Control D all the way over. And this guy is a C again, which actually what we'll do is just delete and bring that over. And if you want to do good housekeeping, just as our chords are named 1, 4, 5, 1, name your bass line that, and name your sub that as well. So that way when you really get into the nitty gritty of this, and you're moving all these different things around on your timeline, you know which one you grabbed, and it doesn't just all say minor scale on it. I mean, you can eyeball it too, but like these ones are really close. I wouldn't mess with that because it's easier just to go right click, rename 4, right click, rename 5, you know what I mean, and just go through the process of naming all of these, and it'll make it easier for you. So just good housekeeping. And then as far as a sub, you just go into here and type sub, which once again you'll replace this later. Whoa. Okay, instrument rack, bass. Sure, we could try that. And let's say too, if this bass line, if this sub was a little bit too high pitched for where it should be in the track, you can do one of two things. You can either go in and look for basically a way to pitch it down on the synthesizer, if you will, like pitch it down by 12 cents, and that'll give you an octave lower. And then like obviously it goes in kind of groupings of 12. 24 would be 2 octaves, 36 would be 3 octaves, whether higher or lower. Or what you can do is go into your MIDI clip, and like because C2 is where we originally made everything at, unfold it and then just select all of this, shift click, and then hold control and click down or up, and you can drag your notes to wherever you want them to be. And then wherever, you know, phantom creepiness going on there. Once you have them where you want them to be and you fold it, you won't see this kind of lack of ceiling here where you can't move the note. Like I can't move this note down. I'm hitting my down arrow and I can't move it down. If I took the scale and moved it down by an octave or duplicated it down by an octave, I'd have an octave below this as well. So just know that. And actually it takes about 2 seconds, so I'll just show you. There's the scale. I selected it. Control, click, move the mouse down. And you do have to eyeball it a little. Like I can see that last note right there, that A sharp 1, that was the last note. That's actually a C. So drag it up. And now we have a whole other scale beneath the one that we were. And when we fold it, now we have room beneath that C to lower this down to this C. Which may not be, I thought that might be a little bit too low. It may not be. It's something that you can experiment with in your own time. But just a quick tutorial on Trance. And all that sub is doing, it's following the open hi-hat pattern. And something is off there. The note is on the 5 instead of the 4. And then what you can do with the plucks basically is you can follow the pattern of the chords if you like. So what you can do with the, let's shrink up our bass and our drums since we're done. Go into your chords, click, shift click, and then hold down Control, click and drag up into your plucks, and then you can take these clips here and basically put it on like 8th notes if you want, or 16th notes, and you can mess around with creating a 16th note pattern based on what you have here. And I mean, this is where the time really gets eaten up, is creating like your quote-unquote lead or your pluck sound. All the name of the game for this is just making these bar-long chords into little 16th note stabs and placing them wherever you hear them, or wherever the pattern in your head is going. There's not too much right or wrong with it. It's really just a matter of where do you hear them. Let's see if we can get a quick pluck sound just to give you a quick idea. Okay, that's not gonna work. Hold on. Okay. So let's lift these up by an octave because they're too low. So I select, and then I shift, hold down shift, and then up arrow, and they go up by an octave. And what we probably could do is do kind of a classic, kind of dead mousey kind of thing here. Could do that. You could just make it more traditional. But you're going to take these and move them around. You'll delete them. You'll do whatever it is that you want to do with this. And I mean, I think you can even hear, like, it's kind of the start of the makings of sort of kind of progressive-y 138. It could be uplifting, just depending on how you replace the sounds. Or even progressive. You could slow this down to 128, and it becomes kind of a plucky, progressive-y track. So you do that, you replace all of these into 16th, and then just place them on the timeline wherever you want, just like I did over here. Take them, delete them, move them around, whatever you'd like to do. You know, it really depends on what the reference is that you're going for. There's also no harm in kind of taking a page from the bassline book, and if you take your 16th notes, kind of your 3-note 16th note pattern here, you can mess with that for a lead. So instead of this being a pluck, this could be your lead, and you can do something more like your bass line up here. But what you could do is take your notes, shift click, hold down shift, and raise them up an octave. So shift and then up arrow. So you can do different things, and it'll sound obviously much better as you replace sounds and move the patterns around. But I mean, there's your makings for trance. 909 drum pattern, 16th note bass, sub on the 8th notes, chords, minor key, and either plucks or any kind of lead sound that you like. Just hammer out the pattern, and you know what notes to play within the key and the scale because you have them right here. I hope that helps you guys, at least for production wise. In about a half an hour time, you've got trance, or the makings of kind of the skeleton, the bones of trance that you know, that genre sort of hangs on. If you like it, let me know. I can continue this project. I can show you how I would probably mix a basic trance track. That's where I had a lot of success and charted a lot. So if you do like this, cool. It's not quite my usual tropical kind of housey stuff, but I do know a lot about this genre, and you know, the people who might scoff at this, I think probably forget what it's like to be a beginner, because all it really is, I'm telling you, I mean, here's your money's worth right here. These patterns, that's all they are, is patterns. Take synthesizers, take other sounds that are more current, and replace all these chintzy stock sounds with that, and you can easily get a banging trance tune quickly just by switching out the samples and the sounds. Um, Add some EQ and compression to it, um, and some volume. You know, different settings for the volume of what you want to be loud and not loud, which I address a lot in the 30-day power production course, as well as a mixing course that I'm making right now that I'll be dropping in about a month, and you'll have a decent trance track. Um, it's not a matter of having a huge session. It's really not. You could probably make a decent trance track with 10 to 15 tracks, you know, because what do we have already? We've got 5 right here. Add 10 more, maybe vocals, crash cymbal, you know, risers or lifters, and then like down lifters, like just effects, um, and you're good, you know. Just get good sounds, and you don't really need always to layer and layer and layer and overmix, and you know, realize that your mixing messed up your master, so you have to go back and remix it just to get it loud enough for the master. It's just, it's too much. Like, you don't need to overthink it and go crazy and let people get in your head about, you know, if you're not sweating buckets and bleeding for your music, it must be no good. I just don't believe it. It's not true. Here's your patterns. Get dope sounds on those patterns, and you are good. I'll see you guys later.